first DIY for this year with the BMW E90. A lot of times with this car, the N55 engine as well as the N54 and similar BMW engine, where this hose comes from the thermostat housing to the cylinder head. It's a very long, snaky hose that comes from the bottom of the car to the top of the car. After a certain amount of mileage, the hose just explodes and coolant stops flowing to the cylinder head, which is very important for the car. The dealership will tell you for $1,000+ labor and cost is to replace the whole hose, maybe replace the thermostat. The issue with this is the plastic part that breaks is very brittle and it comes apart and it just explodes. And you want to make sure the plastic pieces don't get into the cylinder head or back down to the thermostat. So a lot of times the dealership might say replace the entire engine or replace the thermostat and the water pump. You don't have to do that. If you clean it carefully, all you have to do is replace the little aluminum connector that connects the hose to the cylinder head. Hey guys, you see the top of my hose exposed? Coolant was all over the place. Popped right out of the plastic bit, which shattered. The hose is also connected with some sort of metal O-ring that came off as well. I collected that. Make sure that did not get under the engine. The hose is connected to the cylinder head, the top of the engine, with these 10mm bolts that come off fairly easy. One comes off easy, but you do have to remove this electrical connector to unscrew both of those bolts, and you have access to removing the plastic connector or flange. This is the aluminum version of that plastic. It's called a flange. I call it a connector, or whatever you want to call it. That's the O-ring that the kit comes with. Different kits may come with different things, but my kit came with like a clamp ring that I could bolt down to secure it. So I'm going to remove the plastic connector, plastic flange that came with the original BMW hose. I don't know why BMW does these cheap plastics on these brilliant engines. So that's the last bolt. It's a 10mm bolt. Yep. So it comes off easy. If you have oil leaks in your car, which all BMWs do, those bolts might be covered with oil and grease. So once the bolts come off, the connector here, the plastic connector, I'm prying it out with a butter knife. You want to make sure if your connector did shatter, make sure you get all the pieces off of the engine. Make sure nothing gets sucked inside the cylinder. So my piece came off in one big piece instead of like little individual pieces, so I didn't do too bad. See, it's dirty, it's brittle. Not sure why BMW use brittle plastics in important parts of the engine. It's a BMW thing, I don't know why. See, oh yeah, there we go. Check for stuff like that. You don't want that stuff to stay there and then that gets sucked inside the engine and then the engine is dead. So I'm gonna turn the camera off to clean up my hands and clean around the opening there. You probably can't see it in the video. So I'm going to clean everything up and come back. Here we are, back again. I'm showing you guys the aluminum flange. I call it a connector. It does have the O-ring seal, and compare it to the older plastic OEM version that BMW uses. I don't know why BMW don't just use aluminum on key components like this instead of cheap plastics that age over time. And this happened at, my car has about 70,000 miles. So I've heard reports of other BMW N55s have this happened at like around that mileage or at the 10-year mark. It pops right into the original hose. There's no modification needed. You do want to use any clamp your connector comes with and use that clamp to secure it onto the original hose. You do not have to replace the original hose. Replacing the original hose, you can do it yourself, but you do need to jack up the car and access the bottom end of the hose from underneath, and it goes down to the thermostat down there under the coolant tank. So I'm going to connect. My kit came with, the clamp had an 8mm bolt, so I'm just going to tighten that around that hose. No torque specs, I just tighten everything up as tight as it could get, not over tighten in my bolts. And once everything's lined up, you bolt everything back on and start up the car. Make sure to refill your coolant with BMW only coolant. Don't pour that green coolant into your BMW. Guys, use the BMW coolant. It's like $20 a jug, and you mix one jug with an equal amount of distilled water, and you get basically 2 jugs of coolant for the price of 1. So I've been doing that for years, and it not giving me any issues. So refill your coolant, make sure that's filled up. Car starts back with no issues. I haven't driven this car a lot this year, so I'm gonna just clean up around the engine bay real quick. But that's pretty much the entire DIY. And I'm doing this in the cold rain with minimal tools. I just needed my socket wrench for the 10mm bolts and the 8mm socket for the clamp that my new metal flange or connector came with. You can replace the entire hose if you want. The hoses are, I think, $80 at a dealership. You can get them $50 elsewhere. And that's pretty much it, guys. Car is running and we're good to go. That was basically one of the easiest DIYs I've ever had to do for the car. As you with me, and thank you for watching and supporting the channel. I appreciate every one of you guys. See you guys in the next one. Bye.